Hello there, and welcome to our channel. America, our beloved, slightly unhinged experiment in democracy, might be teetering on the edge of something. It could be greatness, but let's be honest, it's probably not. Today, we're diving into the potential collapse of 10 entire states. Yes, you heard that right. 10. This isn't some dystopian sci-fi film, this is real life. Experts warn these states might face serious challenges soon. We're talking economic meltdowns, social unrest, maybe even a resurgence of pogs. Who knows, it could get weird. Now, I'm not saying these states are doomed, but things are looking a bit dicey. So buckle up, grab your emergency cheese puffs, and prepare to be mildly terrified. First up on our whirlwind tour of potential state implosions is California. The Golden State, home to Hollywood, Silicon Valley, and a whole lot of people who really like avocado toast. Beneath the sunshine and celebrity sightings, California faces calamities that could make even the most chilled-out surfer dude reach for a Xanax smoothie. Let's start with the obvious, shall we? Wildfires. Every year, California is ravaged by these infernos, turning vast swathes of land into apocalyptic wastelands. Climate change is making these fires bigger, badder, and more frequent. As if battling Mother Nature wasn't enough, California is also grappling with a housing crisis of epic proportions. The cost of living is so astronomical, it's practically in orbit. The tech sector, once the state's golden goose, is laying some seriously questionable eggs these days. It's like California is trying to build a house of cards on top of a fault line during an earthquake. Now, you might be thinking, John, this all sounds terrible, but surely people are trying to fix it, right? And the answer, dear viewer, is a resounding sort of. California is like that friend who keeps making the same mistakes over and over again. Take the housing crisis, for example. The state government has thrown a bunch of well-intentioned but ultimately ineffective policies at the problem. But it's like trying to put out a raging inferno with a squirt gun. And then there's the whole Exodus situation. Remember all those people who couldn't afford to live in California? Well, they're leaving, in droves. And who can blame them? As people leave, so do their tax dollars, which is not ideal for a state already struggling financially. Next up on our apocalyptic road trip, we're heading east to the city that never sleeps, New York, New York. This concrete jungle, a beacon of dreams, ambition, and questionable pizza choices, is facing its own unique set of challenges. The gap between the haves and the have-nots is wider than the smile of a Wall Street banker who just closed a shady deal. The cost of living is enough to make even the most hardened New Yorker consider a career change to, I don't know, goat herding in Montana. And then there's the pandemic hangover. New York was the epicenter of that whole mess. And while the city has shown remarkable resilience in bouncing back, the economic scars run deep. New York is also grappling with a mass exodus of its own. People are fleeing the city's exorbitant costs and questionable smells for greener pastures. Now, New York is nothing if not resilient. This city has stared down adversity before. But right now, New York is walking a financial tightrope. The city's budget is as stable as a Jenga tower. The pandemic drained its coffers, and taxpayers are leaving. Businesses are hesitant to invest. The city that never sleeps is starting to feel like it needs a good nap. Can New York pull itself back from the brink? It's hard to say. Let's set sail down the mighty Mississippi and dock at Illinois, or as I call it, the land of Lincoln Logs and financial woes. This state is facing a budget crisis so deep, you could drop a stack of Obama's birth certificates and still not hit the bottom. We're talking billions with a B in debt, and it's not just a recent problem. This fiscal fiasco has been brewing longer than a pot of Malort left out in the sun. How did they get here, you ask? Imagine a government spending money it doesn't have consistently for decades. It's a vicious cycle of fiscal irresponsibility. And if that wasn't enough, let's talk about their pension liabilities. Illinois owes its retired state employees a boatload of money. And guess who's footing the bill? The taxpayers. Now, you might think, John, surely Chicago, the economic engine of the state, can bail them out. And you'd be right. Chicago is a powerhouse, but even the mighty Michael Jordan couldn't single-handedly win a championship, and Chicago, despite its economic clout, is struggling under the weight of the state's financial woes. It's like having a magnificent Clydesdale trying to pull a broken-down wagon filled with lead bricks. Sure, the horse is strong, but eventually, even the mightiest steed will buckle under the strain. And this isn't just some abstract economic theory, folks. This is real life, with real consequences. We're talking about potential cuts to education, infrastructure, and social services, the very things that make a state livable. So while Illinois may be known for its fertile farmland and towering skyscrapers, it's also quickly becoming synonymous with fiscal instability. And unless they get their financial house in order, they might just find themselves in a state of perpetual collapse. Let's sashay down south, where the food is spicy, the music is soulful, and the state budget is more terrifying than a voodoo doll collection. Louisiana faces a perfect storm of economic woes and natural disasters. Hurricanes, floods, you name it. These disasters leave behind billions in damage, displaced families, and a crippled economy. Louisiana's wrestling with a whole gator's nest of economic problems. High poverty rates, income inequality, and a reliance on unstable oil and gas. Relying on fossil fuels is like using a hurricane as a hairdryer. And let's not forget about the brain drain. Louisiana's vibrant culture faces serious challenges. From the bayous of Louisiana, we now venture into the heart of Appalachia, to a state known for its rolling hills, its bluegrass music, and, sadly, its economic struggles. That's right, folks. We're talking about West Virginia, hit hard by the decline of the coal industry. The coal industry is dying, yada yada yada. But what's often overlooked is the human cost, the families and communities left behind. Coal was the lifeblood of the state, providing jobs, identity, and a sense of community. As the world realized burning coal was harmful, demand plummeted. Unemployment soared, towns became ghost towns, and hopelessness settled over the region. Now, I'm not here to romanticize the coal industry, but we can't ignore the plight of the people who built their lives around this industry. They now find themselves adrift in economic uncertainty. Some argue for retraining programs. Others pin their hopes on renewable energy. West Virginia must embrace change and invest in its people. Maybe someday, it will be known for its resilience and innovation. All right, let's talk about Mississippi. Now, when you think of Mississippi, you might think of blues music, delicious soul food, or maybe even, oh, well, that's probably about it. But what you should also associate with Mississippi is its truly abysmal healthcare system. I'm not exaggerating here. Mississippi consistently ranks at the bottom for healthcare access and outcomes. It's like the entire state is playing a never-ending game of Oregon Trail, but instead of dysentery, everyone's got preventable diseases. We're talking about rural hospitals closing left and right, folks. And when your hospital looks more like a haunted house than a place of healing, you know you've got problems. It's gotten so bad that even the ghosts are packing their bags saying, "This place is depressing even for us." And don't even get me started on the lack of health insurance. It's like trying to find a decent internet provider in rural America near impossible. So you've got folks skipping doctor's appointments not because they want to, but because they simply can't afford it. It's a recipe for disaster, and frankly, it's a national embarrassment. But hey, at least the economy in Mississippi is booming, right? Oh wait, no it's not. It's like trying to build a skyscraper on a foundation of, well, Mississippi mud. The state consistently ranks near the bottom in terms of median household income and economic growth. And look, it's not like Mississippians are lazy. They work incredibly hard. But it's tough to climb the economic ladder when the rungs are covered in, you guessed it, more Mississippi mud. The lack of economic opportunity is enough to make you want to pack your bags and head north. The thing is, Mississippi has so much potential. It's got beautiful scenery, a rich history, and some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. But until the state addresses its deeply ingrained economic and healthcare issues, it's going to continue to struggle. It's like watching a talented musician play a broken instrument. You can see the potential, but the sound is just off. Mississippi, it's time to tune up your act. The people deserve better. Next up, we're hopping on over to the Garden State, New Jersey. New Jersey is a fascinating place. It's home to Bruce Springsteen, Bon Jovi, and some of the highest taxes in the nation. Property taxes that could make your eyes water faster than a Jersey diner onion ring. Seriously, it's like the state government held a competition to see how many taxes they could cram onto a single pay stub. Property tax, income tax, sales tax, even an exit tax if you try to escape the madness. You see, New Jersey has a bit of a spending problem. And by a bit, I mean it makes a Kardashian shopping spree look like a trip to the dollar store. They've got pension obligations that could bankrupt a small country, and infrastructure projects that seem to take longer to complete than the construction of the Great Wall of China. And what happens when you combine sky-high taxes with out-of-control spending? You get a state budget that looks like it was attacked by a pack of rabid accountants. It's enough to make even the most seasoned economist break down in tears. Look, I get it, New Jersey. You've got beautiful beaches, charming small towns, and easy access to New York City. But at what cost? Sooner or later, people are going to realize they can find all of those things elsewhere, without having to file for bankruptcy just to pay their property taxes. New Jersey, it's time to get your financial house in order. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself facing a mass exodus that would make the Jersey Shore look like a ghost town. All right, let's move on to Kentucky, a state known for its rolling hills, bourbon distilleries, and, well, let's be honest, a whole lot of coal. Or at least, it used to be. You see, Kentucky's economy has long been reliant on the coal industry, which is about as sustainable these days as a chocolate teapot in a sauna. The coal industry is in decline, folks. And while some might mourn the loss of those good old days, let's not forget that those good old days involved black lung disease, environmental devastation, and a whole lot of corporate greed. But here's the thing, Kentucky's reliance on coal has left it vulnerable, like a one-legged man in a kicking contest. As the demand for coal dwindles, so too do the jobs, the tax revenue, and frankly, the hope for a brighter future. And let's not kid ourselves, this isn't some unforeseen tragedy. It's like watching a train wreck in slow motion. We've known for years that coal's days were numbered, but instead of diversifying its economy, Kentucky doubled down, clinging to the past like a toddler to a well-worn teddy bear. But hey, at least Kentucky's got, well, healthcare is a problem too, isn't it? Like many states on this list, Kentucky faces significant healthcare challenges. Access to affordable care, particularly in rural areas, is about as rare as a sober night in Bourbon County. And don't even get me started on the opioid crisis. Kentucky has been hit particularly hard by this epidemic, with rates of addiction and overdose consistently ranking among the highest in the nation. It's a crisis that demands attention, resources, and most importantly, a compassionate approach. Look, Kentucky is a state with a lot to offer. It's got stunning natural beauty, a rich cultural heritage, and let's not forget some damn good bourbon. But until it addresses its economic and healthcare challenges head-on, it's going to continue to struggle. It's time for Kentucky to kick its coal habit and invest in a more sustainable future. Otherwise, the bluegrass state might find itself singing a different tune, one of economic despair and societal decline. All right, let's talk about Alaska, the last frontier. Land of majestic mountains, stunning glaciers, and crippling dependence on oil revenue. You see, Alaska's like that friend who won the lottery, went on a spending spree, and now subsists entirely on scratch-off tickets and the vague hope of another windfall. For decades, Alaska has relied heavily on oil money, like a polar bear on a shrinking ice floe. But here's the thing. Oil prices are about as stable as a toddler on a sugar rush. They go up, they go down, and sometimes they take your entire economy with them. And let's be clear, this isn't some abstract economic theory. This is about real people's lives. When oil prices plummet, Alaska feels the pain. Budget cuts, job losses, you name it. It's enough to make you want to hibernate until the next boom cycle. The problem is, relying on a single, volatile industry is like building your house on a fault line. It's only a matter of time before the whole thing comes crashing down. And folks, in Alaska, the tremors are already being felt. Now, I know what you're thinking. John, surely Alaska has other options. What about all that beautiful nature, tourism, fishing? Maybe they can sell artisanal glacier water to hipsters. And look, you're not wrong. Alaska does have some other industries. but they're a bit like trying to patch a leaking dam with duct tape and a prayer. It might hold for a little while, but it's not a long-term solution. They need to diversify their economy, and fast. Think of it like this. Alaska's been mainlining oil for decades, and now they're going through withdrawal. They need to find a new, healthier addiction, something sustainable, something, dare I say, boring? Because let's be honest, nobody's moving to Alaska to work in a sustainable tofu factory. But they might if there were other viable options, options that didn't involve praying for another oil boom or freezing themselves cryogenically until the economy improves. And trust me, at this rate, that might not be for a while. New Mexico, land of enchantment. Home to stunning landscapes, vibrant culture, and a whole heap of economic problems. It's like the state itself is stuck in a perpetual loop of a Coen Brothers film. Beautiful scenery, quirky characters, and a pervasive sense that things are about to go very, very wrong. Now, I'm not saying New Mexico is all bad. They've got incredible natural beauty, delicious food, and more artistic communities than you can shake a turquoise necklace at. But beneath that charming exterior lies a harsh reality. New Mexico is struggling, and it's been struggling for a while. They've got high poverty rates, low educational attainment, and an economy that's about as diverse as a bag of potato chips. And before you say it, yes, they're trying to branch out beyond the Breaking Bad tourism circuit. But it's tough, especially when you're so reliant on federal funding. Which brings us to our next point. New Mexico's relationship with the federal government is complicated. It's like that friend who constantly borrows money, promises to pay you back, then hits you up for another loan before the month is out. New Mexico receives a significant chunk of its budget from the federal government. It's like being handed cash with one hand and having your pockets picked with the other. Federal funding often comes with strings attached, strings that can tie the state's hands. And let's not forget about climate change. New Mexico is facing severe droughts and water shortages, and those problems are only going to get worse. They need to diversify their economy and invest in education, and find a way to break free from that federal funding cycle, because the clock is ticking. Well, there you have it, folks. 10 states teetering on the edge of economic oblivion. Ignoring problems doesn't make them disappear. These issues are big and can cripple states. But it's not too late. With awareness and action, there's hope. It's going to take real, concrete action from both citizens and officials. Get informed, get involved, and vote. Change starts with us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insightful content.